Is Bitcoin going to go below $20,000 and start heading towards 15,000? I feel like that's a big question that everyone in the crypto space is trying to understand right now, and I'd be happy to share my insights on that. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Vincent Ferretti. I've been a blockchain enthusiast since 2017, and for those of you who do know who I am and have been following the channel, I'm glad to be back making another video. Let's get into this one. So let's dig right into the charts. I like to do a zoom out view. The only reason why I have this red bar here is because it is a very important support line. This is the past resistance that we had back in the end of 2017, early 2018, where we rushed all the way up to it was about $20,000. I think we hit peaks of 19,400 with a wick up to 20,000, and then we had exactly 3 years later, we broke out above that $20,000 level, went on a huge bull run up to 60,000, and then we have now seen some support at that area. So that's a big area, right? We had a huge uptrend, big resistance turned into insane all-time highs, and then we had a crazy downtrend that has turned into support now. There you go. You just got caught up on crypto for the past 3 years, 4 years. There you have it, just in 10 seconds. So let's talk about that level. Let's also talk about what's been happening with the downtrend, right? There's a lot of noise in the market, right? Everyone's saying, Bitcoin 200,000, Bitcoin to 1 million, Bitcoin bull run now, Bitcoin's going to go down to 5,000. And guys, the one thing that I could say is you gotta cut out the noise and just look at the chart. So when I'm looking at this chart, the only thing that's in between me and the chart is the computer, and that's it. And there's no one telling me, what to look at, etc. I cut out all the noise. With the clean slate, the reason why I like to reset is because now I can formulate an opinion that's not biased. So sometimes you'll have drawings that maybe might have you, second guess yourself. And I feel like when you come in with a clean slate, you can really start to formulate a plan. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a chart a trend line that clearly shows we are in a downtrend. So anyone that's trying to say that we're in a bull run, we're heading to a bull run, etc., cut it out. Don't listen to it. We're in a downtrend. Until we break this yellow trend line, we are forever going to be in this bear market. And then once we break that trend line, I'll officially say that we are out of this bear market and we are in a bull market, or at least, have a better probability that we're in a bull market. So because we're trading below this trend line, that means that a lot of trades that you're going to be buying, if you're going to be buying Bitcoin to show a future potential profit by it increasing in value, the probability is not on your side, right? You're already below 50%. The probability on this side is short selling, is selling your Bitcoin to buy back at a lower price and borrowing Bitcoin to sell and be able to make some profit. So now I'm not saying that you can't, make some profits in the meantime. You totally can. But for me personally, I like going with the trend. I'm a trend trader. I'm going to be on the short selling side and keep riding this down until we break this yellow trend line. Or if I start to see signs of a bottom and signs of an uptrend, I'll start to buy some Bitcoin and really get a nice long-term position in. My long-term positions are completely sold. I'm, around 90% cash with a lot of my investments, and I'm ready to buy. I'm just waiting for those buying opportunities. The only things that I'm a little bit not over leveraged, but starting to take some off the table is equities, which we can dig into later in this video. So we're starting to see this downtrend, right? So I want to dig in just to the this trend that we saw a couple days ago, or it's been a couple weeks now, of showing signs of some sort of an uptrend. And I'm not against anyone that's saying, hey, we're in a bull run. We're definitely not in a bull run, but I can see why people would say that. But to me, this is just a typical bearish pattern, so a bear pennant. If we look at the past movements and we kind of zoom out to the daily, right? We saw a similar thing back here. We saw some sort of an uptrend. It broke down and then it went down and started to continue its movement downwards. We saw the same exact thing, started to semi show an uptrend, started to push back down, and we started to see it again, right? Higher lows, and we started to form some sort of a bearish pennant. Now, to me, I was not buying at these levels. I think if we even make a couple more key indicators onto like where price was headed and where the resistance it has to get by, we had a huge wick that ended up getting bought up at $25,000. So we're going to put a line there. We had another consolidation. This was the only week, by the way, guys, if we look back on the weekly chart, we had 11 weeks of red. This is the only week that we had green. So it held up pretty well at this level. But it also is a pretty big support. Support turns to old support, turns to new resistance. So we see some key levels here, right? We see that there has been, some, even if we are at these levels, let's ignore all these other bars. There's a lot of room that Bitcoin has to get by before we start to see some substantial movement. And these are big resistance, right? We have this 25,000, we have this 28,000, then we have the big bad boy, the downtrend, which we also have to break out. And plus, we have this resistance as well. So there was a lot of resistance to get through. There was a lot of selling pressure to get through on top of being in a bear trend. So I didn't see the reasoning why to go on a bull side of that until we break the yellow line, kind of just going back to my main thesis. But overall, I can see why people would think we're in a bull trend. So we started to break down, and now we're starting to, looks like what we're doing is we're starting to head down towards this $20,000 level. I have other indicators, right? I'll use volume sometimes, I'll use the EMAs, I'll use the RSI, but I feel like it kind of just confuses me. The thing I like to look at most is just price action. Simply put, we're going to start to go down, right? We see a resistance here. We saw that, we broke down. This was kind of my first take profit level right here for my short. We had, a tough time getting by these specific levels up here, right? We had a tough time getting by around like the $22,000 level, 1, 2, and then we had a support that kind of showed us that this was a good area for there to be old resistance turned into support. So I'm going to have a line right there. We broke down below that. And there's no coincidence that on the daily chart, we started to pick back up and we had a little bit of a break and retest down here. And now we're starting to see more of downward momentum movement. So what does that mean? I feel like if I had to make a prediction, right? I don't like to predict, but I like to react. But you can eventually look at the price of Bitcoin, look at the movements, and be able to have a probability that can give you, be able to formulate a plan and show you where Bitcoin could be headed. It's all a game of probabilities, right? So the probability of it going down is much greater, knowing that we saw a break and a retest. If it went up and started to continue an uptrend, the probability would be less than what it is now, right? So we're going to probably start to see Bitcoin head down towards these $19,000 levels. This, what I would say, is a great spot for a low risk, high reward buy spot. Buy spot. For you to be able to get a long-term position in on Bitcoin. This is specifically a great accumulation area. I think it's low risk, and the reason why I say that is because when you start to go down and you see all of these taps on the support, right? The more taps, the weaker the support gets, and I totally understand that. But I think if you're able to get a position in at 19,000 and it breaks down below around $18,000, even just accumulating some, maybe just 10% of your normal position sizing, it can just help you start to pay attention, at least get some, keep an eye on it because you have some skin in the game. And then eventually as it starts to break these resistance, right, we have resistance 1. If it starts to break here, maybe you buy a little bit more. If it starts to break this other resistance, maybe you put another buy order in. It breaks the big uptrend, you put another buy order, and so on and so forth. And you really just work your way up until you're really past all this resistance and back kind of in a green area. That's sort of the way that I go about trading. I like to be able to buy on a break of a resistance into the trend versus against the trend. So trying to buy on like these down levels, if it's not showing form of support, then it doesn't really make sense for me to do that, right? So if we start to see Bitcoin head down and we break immediately, let's just say, we go up and then we go down immediately. I'm just gonna make this a little bit larger so you guys can see, and I'll also make it yellow. If we go up and then we go down immediately and we don't consolidate at this area, I wouldn't buy, right? What I'm trying to see is a little bit of a breakout, right? It starts to go down, some consolidation, maybe it starts to trend up, and then I'll start to buy, right? I want to see some consolidation here. And I don't know if that's going to happen. No one really does, but I feel like you can sort of be able to be ready for that and be able to formulate a plan. So when that does happen, you can understand where you want to look at buy levels. So enough with sort of like the Bitcoin chart. I think what I've been seeing differently, like I said, I haven't made a video in a while, so I kind of want to just share my thoughts a little bit on Bitcoin, right? There's been a lot has changed since 2018. We've had regulation that comes into the space. We've had the SEC starting to get involved and call a lot of crypto securities, although Bitcoin is not a security. we've seen a lot of advancements in technology, right? I think blockchain is starting to take more of a predominant role in our everyday lives, and we're starting to see banks and institutions start to incorporate this. We're seeing, big movers like Nike, Adidas, Tiffany, Gucci, Dolce & Gabbana get involved into NFTs. So I think that's a very bullish sign. So I think the understanding of blockchain tech is there. But what I am saying is that I think the intrinsic value of Bitcoin is sort of still a lagging indicator. I don't think people are still wrapping their heads around the intrinsic value. I do think there's been more intrinsic value. I think Bitcoin is very valuable. I think it's a very valuable asset. I like paying people in Bitcoin, specifically cross-border payments, maybe for contractors, outsourced work, virtual assistants, etc. It's just an easier way to pay people across the border. And so I feel like that is adding a lot of intrinsic value to Bitcoin, which is just not reflecting in the price. We've seen a lot of products that now help you spend your Bitcoin. You can pay for rent in Bitcoin. I'm working currently on a product where I feel like I can come out and help people spend their Bitcoin a little bit easier. Things like that all add to the value of it. But with that being said, what's different now is Bitcoin is being treated as a risk-on asset, right? It's following the stock market to the T. Look at what's happened here from March 21st to March 28th. We had a big drop, 11 weeks of red with 1 week of green. If we go to SPY and we look at this circle right here, this is March 28th to March 21st. We had a bunch of red with 1 week of green. It's starting to get correlated to the stock market. And back in when, 2018, it wasn't really much. It was still a risk on asset, but it wasn't really classified and wasn't really following the stock market as much as it is now. And now we're seeing a big correlation because people are cycling. They're taking Bitcoin as a risk on asset. So when things like inflation happen and people are cycling out of risk on assets, Bitcoin is a part of that field. So all equities, Bitcoin, commodities, not really, but people are cycling their money out of there and wherever they're putting it to keep it safe, whether it's gold, whether it's fiat dollars, etc. And so that's why we're starting to see more of a correlation from Bitcoin to the S&P. Ethereum is pretty much the same exact thing. I'll make another video on the Ethereum merge, but it had the same exact setup, right? We had an uptrend going into it. We had a fall going down. We're starting to see some consolidation around a previous resistance, which turned into a new support. And we're starting to fall down towards, what seems to be another big support area. And I haven't even zoomed back yet because I haven't decided to go back in time. But if I go to the weekly, this was an area that had a lot of resistance back in 2018. So it's not a coincidence, right? I think Bitcoin is still the main predominant mover. It sort of starts with the overall equities market that trickles into Bitcoin. Bitcoin trickles into the rest of the market. I'm not saying that all the tokens go the same, but across the board, if you look at my watch list, you're seeing a lot of red because Bitcoin's red. And I think this is a huge level that people are looking for. It's inevitably going to hit that. If it doesn't, great, I'm wrong, I'm okay with that. But I do anticipate that we're gonna hit that level. I have my plan formulated. I know what I'm going to do. And I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot with the probability that I understand that we're in a bear market, right? We're in a clear downtrend. So the probability is more on the short selling side, but I can still pick up and accumulate some Bitcoin if I start to see support because I know that this is a big level for Bitcoin to settle at. So I hope this video was helpful. If you would love for you guys to subscribe, get some new subscribers, give me a thumbs up, comment any questions that you have. I want to work with you guys directly. If you have any questions, please, I answer them all. Reach out to me on Twitter. Would love to help. Until the next video, stay safe out there. Let's make some profit and I'll see you later. Peace.